going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. So 2020, I would say, has been a pretty nice year whenever it comes to smartphones. But one thing I've really liked about this year is that you don't have to spend a whole bunch of money or buy a super premium flagship device in order to get a really good smartphone. And I think we've seen and reviewed a couple of really good examples of that lately, like the OnePlus 8T and the Google Pixel 5. But there is another smartphone, a really popular one that exists in the upper mid-range category, and that's this phone right here, the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE 5G. Let's talk about it. With a phone like the S20 FE, Samsung uses a premium phone like the Galaxy S20 as a smartphone blueprint, if you will. Now what they'll do is they'll take that blueprint and they'll scale down various aspects of it in order to make the FE more affordable. Now that's not to say that the FE is a low quality phone. It's actually really good whenever it comes to delivering a solid core smartphone performance. But that lower price tag makes the phone much more accessible across a wider customer base. For the primary material on the back of the phone, Samsung opted for plastic. Now, plastic does have some nice benefits over glass. The main one being that if you drop it, you can't shatter plastic. So that's nice. And in terms of the quality of this plastic, in the right light, it kind of looks like glass. It's really similar to the plastic that you'll find on the back of the Galaxy Note 20. It's kind of this soft touch, metallic-y shimmer to it. And in this navy color that we have, it actually looks really good. Now, one benefit I will say for this particular build is that there is an aluminum enclosure. So when you're holding the phone in your hand, you kind of have this mix of cold aluminum with this soft touch plastic. So overall, from a build quality perspective, sure, plastic might be a cheaper material, but it still feels really nice and quality in the hand. And the phone can still wirelessly charge and comes with an IP rating, so not bad overall. The quality of the display is also really nice. Now you are missing out on the WQHD Plus maximum resolution that you would find on the S20, but Samsung is giving you full HD Plus resolution and you're keeping the 120 Hz refresh rate. Keep in mind, even on a phone like the Galaxy S20, if you want the highest display refresh rate, you have to crank the resolution down to full HD Plus. So in my opinion, this really isn't even a compromise. When I had my S20 Ultra, I preferred the higher refresh rate with the lower display resolution because 120 Hz is just butter. Now, the display itself is also flat, which I much prefer over rounded edges, and the bezels around the display are relatively uniform. There is one aspect of the display that I found kind of weird, and that's the center hole punch camera. Now, it is really similar to what you'll find on the S20, but Samsung did something strange with the lens on this phone. It's lighter than the rest of the display, and when the display is off, you'll notice this kind of silverish ring around the lens itself. I'm not really sure what's going on here. I don't know if Samsung just did that to differentiate this phone from a regular S20, or this was some sort of cutback in order to save cost, but it's noticeable when the display is turned off. Either way, display quality is nice. Internally, I would say Samsung made the least amount of changes to this phone, which is actually really good. So again, this phone borrows from the S20 line, Snapdragon 865 with 128 gigabytes of base storage. Where the two phones differ is the amount of RAM. Now, depending on which S20 model you bought, you either got 8 gigs of RAM or 12 gigs of RAM. With the FE, you have 6 gigs of RAM, which is still a really solid amount of RAM to pair with a Snapdragon 865 processor. So naturally, performance on this phone is great. And of course, it wouldn't be an upper mid-range phone without some sort of modification to the camera system. So on the S20 FE, we have a triple lens setup, 12 megapixel wide and ultra wide angle with an 8 megapixel telephoto lens. The phone is also capable of recording video at a maximum resolution of 4K at 24, 30, and 60 frames per second. And I'm actually really okay with the overall photo quality that this camera reproduces. It is your typical Samsung photo reproduction in that colors in the picture are more saturated and boosted than you'll find in a lot of other smartphones. And I think what I always say about Samsung's camera system still apply to this phone. And that's that they'll produce photos that are really visually pleasing and nice to look at, but they may not necessarily be the most color accurate. Either way, from a photo imaging and processing perspective, I'm going to say that this phone has a really decent camera system, and overall, you'll be really pleased with the results that you get. One area of the Galaxy S20 FE that's actually considered an improvement over the regular S20 is its battery capacity. The capacity of the battery on the FE is 4,500 milliamp hours. Now that's up 500 milliamp hours from the regular S20. And whenever you pair it to a display that has a maximum resolution of Full HD+, you get really, really solid battery life. I was able to easily get through one full day's worth of moderate to relatively heavy usage on this phone with absolutely no problem. So from a battery life perspective, this is actually one of the better phones that Samsung makes whenever you're strictly considering battery. So overall, I think the S20 FE 5G does a really solid job of capturing that blueprint that we were talking about in the beginning of the video and offering it up at a really solid price, $699. Now, while I was using the FE 5G, there were a couple of things that kept coming to mind. Number one was the overall value of this smartphone, which I think is really good. But number two is I kept wondering what Samsung was doing with the current pricing of their flagship line. Now, when I talk about pricing, I'm not talking about current sales or promotions that Samsung could have going right now. I'm not even talking about carrier financing. I'm talking about just straight up unlocked prices. This phone is $699 full price. The regular S20 was $999, $300 more expensive. Now that makes sense considering that phone comes with a glass back, a higher resolution display, it's larger, it comes with a better camera system, things like that. But where I really started to feel confused is when I started comparing this phone to the Note 20, which also costs $1,000, also comes with a plastic back, comes with a 60 hertz maximum resolution display with 1080p as the resolution. And I started wondering to myself, the biggest difference between, let's say, the S20 FE and the Note 20, which is $300 more expensive, is that S Pen. So either Samsung is really overcharging for the Note 20 and potentially even overcharging for the S20 line, or they're undervaluing this one. Either way, I think the S20 FE 5G is definitely worth the money for the amount of smartphone that you're getting, and hopefully next year, whenever Samsung drops the S21, and maybe the Note 21 we'll see, maybe those prices will come down considering just how much smartphone you can get out of this package right here. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe. I gotta get out of here. I need to figure out how I can get my hands on an AirPods Max without waiting 12 to 14 weeks for delivery. So stay safe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. 12 to 14 weeks.